pictures on my face.
Hey, I get real offended when anyone talks poorly about their hair in front of me.
Are you hair deficient?
I'm hair challenged.
Hair challenge. That's a better way. That's a better way to say it, right?
Yeah, I have a lot of material about losing my hair. It's something that really torments me. And I actually have this idea. I mean, I'm going to say it on your podcast. I don't know how many people listen, but it might lose its luster when I do it. I have my title for my first special. Not going to say what that one is, but after my first special, I have the thought of getting hair plugs and calling my second special Josh Edelman Plugged.
I like it.
Instead of Unplugged.
Got it. Yeah, Unplugged. Josh Edelman Plugged. You should do it.
Because part of the first special's title involves losing my hair in the title.
Right.
I was actually just looking at your collection over here. I saw the Robert Klein Child of the 50s, Man of the 80s.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, let's come up with something else. Right. I mean, I love that Child of the 50s album. It's something I used to listen to on record when I was a kid because my dad had it.
Right.
But I feel like he never quite evolved past. He's still doing the Can't Shake My Leg song like into his 90s.
I haven't seen him. I saw a documentary about him.
Really?
Which was very good. I think it was at a film festival or something, but it was awesome.
Yeah, because it didn't really make it to the public rounds. I haven't heard of it.
You're just going in on Robert Klein.
I like Robert Klein. You know what it was? It was interesting. I love the Child of the 50s album so I'll go in on anyone. I love the Child of the 50s album so much that like I kept requesting him at the comedy club in my neighborhood, and then he finally came and I watched it and I was like, that sucked.
Oh, man.
And then I watched his special on TV that he did when I was a kid, and I didn't like that either.
Do you like him on Comedians in Cars?
I didn't see his Comedians in Cars.
Well,
I've watched a bunch of them. I haven't watched all of them, but I'll definitely check that out. And I like him when he like acts in movies, and I love the Child of the 50s album. Very influential on me. And it only Orson Welles had a great saying because I think he was talking to Peter Bogdanovich. I forget which actress he mentioned. Who cares, right?
Right.
And she goes, well, she only really had one great movie. And Orson Welles goes, it only takes one.
Right. As what he did. Well, he did a couple, but like he has the one.
Oh, yeah. I guess that was a little bit of a defense mechanism. It only takes one.
He was defending his career.
The guy who's like, only got one. He's like, hey, the way Peter Bogdanovich was like, it only takes one. But really was like, hey, it only takes one, buddy. All right?
He did that at 25, I think. Citizen Kane.
Yeah. I used to hold that as my bar. I was like, all right, I just got to make the best movie ever before I'm 25. Now I'm 36, and I came out with maybe the greatest documentary ever. But
well, first off,
it took me 11 years.
I thought you were much younger. Second off, are you that into film? Like you wanted to be a director? Was that your thing?
I went to film school. I think
really?
Film and stand-up are equal loves of mine that like I go back and forth on. I kind of like was doing stand-up for a little bit and then quit for like 8 years to just focus on film.
Quit for 8 years?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a long break.
I know. During the pandemic, when the pandemic started, I just said, Josh, you quit again. I just like, it's like a defense mechanism like dealing with the pandemic. I was like, I can't say I'm just quitting, and I'll decide if I want to unquit when the pandemic is over. But for now, I quit.
But what does that mean? Did you quit like internally? Did you announce it on Twitter? Like
no. Fuck everyone that announces things. Like just Irish everything. Yeah. Like social.
I love an Irish exit.
I'm a social media Irish exiter.
I did it on Tuesday to Irene too.
Oh really? You just left?
Well, I went to her show and then I just left.
I usually like to say goodbye. I'm trying to be more personable. I actually quit social media during the pandemic too. I didn't announce it or anything. Nobody noticed because nobody even notices when I'm on. But
well, tell us about the film you made.
I was gonna say that now I'm gonna get. I hate when people say they're gonna get canceled. Like unless you're famous or something. I always say you can't get canceled if you haven't been picked up. So
but this could cancel you later.
This could cancel me later.
And also, I can take out anything you don't. If you're unhappy with what you just said, I can take it out.
I'm trying to be my authentic self more these days.
Well, maybe you should slow down. Have you not been your authentic self?
Have I not been my authentic self? Somebody told me that somebody else thought I was a phony, and I thought about it, and I was like, maybe a little bit.
Someone else told you that they think you're a phony?
Well,
Wait.
that person definitely thought I was a phony too, and was being a phony by like pawning it off onto the person that told them.
Hey, Josh, this other guy.
Because I heard then from other people that person used to call me a phony all the time. So,
like Holden, just like that kid's a phony.
like that, like I'm fake nice with people and stuff and yeah.
Yeah, but like, are you mean? Well, I've never seen you be mean.
You've never seen me be mean?
I mean, like, I've seen you do comedy and you can make fun of people a little bit, and, like when you host shows and stuff, but never like, I wouldn't put you as like a mean guy who's being fake nice.
No.
And maybe that shows how little I know about you.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It might be how little you know. Well, okay. No, I think this is a fun. I do want to talk about the doc, but I've talked a lot about the doc too.
Yeah, we can get to it whenever you want. So let's.
I actually very much think that I am a nice person, and I like being nice, and I want to be nice. And sometimes I have to fight my impulse to be mean in order to continue.
I feel a big
nice.
butt coming.
No. I don't think there's a but. I actually think since the documentary's come out and like there's been a little bit more attention on me than I've experienced in my life and things, I've actually really started to even think more about like being nicer and someone told me recently, I was saying something to someone that I liked a joke of theirs, and then they got kind of emotional about it, and they told me, people really care about what you think about them at the open mics. And it hadn't occurred to me that people really cared. And then I started to think about what a kind of, not like I go to so many. Yeah. I just can't anymore.
Yeah.
But and it's like I'm going there to I have very specific intentions when I go and goals about going.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I've just started to notice. I went to a mic and someone got up on stage the other day and they were like, Josh told me this joke is good, so I do it every time now. And I'm like, oh, it isn't.
You're a tastemaker.
I don't even know if I just realize it's interesting. I think there's a lot of people who are doing the amount of shows that I do right now that have stopped going to mics, and I'm still of the mentality of try to get on stage as much as I absolutely can. Because I also learned from playing piano that
I saw you when you walked in.
That practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect.
Right. Practice makes permanent.
Practice makes permanent. And I think one of the most interesting stories was in my 8-year break, I would stick my toe back in here and there for a second. And it was 2 years before I really got very serious about everything again. I dipped my toe in. I saw a comedian at a mic, destroyed me. I thought they were so funny. They did their 5 minutes. It killed me. 2 years later, I'm back doing stand-up. I see that guy again, and he does the same exact 5 minutes. And then I start seeing him occasionally at mics all over, and he's always doing that 5 minutes. And I'm like, that's a great 5 minutes, but it's like how I used to just practice songs. And now I know songs on piano. Yeah. Spent 13 years learning chopsticks.
Right.
Now I know songs on piano, but there's so much about it that I don't know because I just practice songs. And it's to me, it's that bit is his song that he knows, but he doesn't have the theory behind it. He can't go off script. It's not building out to a longer thing. It's not back pocket tricks left and right. I think about I kind of love when I have a rougher set because I usually pick up more tricks when I have a rougher set. Something will happen, and like the other day I did a show and audience walked in the middle of most of the audience literally walked in the middle of my longest bit, and they were totally lost. I'm like, I have to scrap this. So I start talking to one of them and I'm like, where are you from? And she goes, Chile. And I go, you're from Chile? And then I went, one of us said it wrong. I'm guessing it was me.
Yeah.
And that was a new thing. And then a week later I was doing another show and I just started talking to someone in the audience, and they said they were from somewhere else, a foreign country, and I repeated it, and I realized again that I repeated it wrong, and I'm like, I got this back pocket trick now for this exact moment.
Are you from Chile? No. No. I'm stuck.
What do I do this time?
Yeah. Well, I think people probably really care about your opinion of them because you are a good joke writer. So when a good joke writer who tells someone their joke is good, that they feel great about it.
My least favorite compliment. Well, it's just funny because people.
How many compliments do you get?
Just usually that one. It's kind of like telling a hot girl she's hot. Like, I know I write good jokes.
Right. All right, I'm starting to hear. I'm starting to discover the other guy.
Well, what I'm saying is, it's like
it can be a backhanded compliment, but I don't think I didn't mean it that way.
No, I know,
and I don't think if I were you, I wouldn't take it that way.
I actually think most people mean it sincerely.
Yeah,
but I also just feel like I'm very funny.
Yeah.
Like I think there's a lot of good joke writers I see who are bad at delivering their jokes.
Yeah.
But I also believe it's funny because like
not that many.
What?
Though. Do you really see people who are like, that's an amazingly written joke, so poorly performed? Like
I see people actually. A funny thing that I also think about myself. I'm gonna give you a bunch of the ego right now, but then I can bring it all down later with like the insecurity. I really feel very strongly that I can fix a ton of comedians, that I see exactly where their weakness is and the thing they need to just change slightly that'll take them to another level.
Really?
One of the main things I see is there are a number of comics I see at mics, and if I like them, I'll tell them that have really strong material and just don't believe in themselves. And it reads.
Yeah.
I feel very strongly that I can tell you if someone's going to be good or not before the first word comes out of their mouth when they walk on stage.
Just their
body language alone, I'm very sensitive to.
Yeah.
And it's like I see certain comics who I'm like, they're not booking, and like I listen to their material and I feel jealous of the jokes they're writing. I wish I came up with that. Yeah. And I just go like, you're good. If you care what I think, I'm telling you you're good. So start walking up with the energy of like, I'm good.
You can never have enough confidence.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like there are times where I just walk up on stage confident and I can see the audience start to relax. That like I have, that I just like before I've even said anything.
Well, because then they know you're controlling the space. Mm-hmm. Even like in how the most basic stand-up tip is move the stand.
Yeah.
Because not only is it in your way, it looks weird, but you're also taking control of the space. You're adjusting things. You're like, oh, this is my living room now, and we're gonna do it my way.
I also like to stand towards the front of the stage. A lot of people I see stand like back towards the wall or like put their hand on it, and I almost feel it feels like a safety blanket. It feels scared to me a little bit. So I
think it can be both, because you can be at the front of the stage and leaning a little too hard. And like it feels like you need it, and some people can be I've seen very confident. Maranzio Vance, very confident at the back of the wall.
I don't think there's nothing I'm saying is like a rule across the board. Right. I'll never forget. I took a stand-up class to start comedy in New York like 12, 13 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Where at?
What?
Where at?
Caroline's.
Yeah.
And here's my thing about stand-up classes. You know, a lot of people like to make fun of them. This is the one thing I think it's useful for, and I think it's very useful. It's the way to get up on stage for the first time without feeling the pressure of like going out into the world and doing it.
Yeah, or finding out how.
You have a room full of equally terrified people sitting there just worried about themselves having to get up in front of you.
Yeah.
It's like I remember I was at the Belly Room for their mic once, and someone got on stage and goes, "This is my first time doing stand-up," and everyone started booing them.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it was hilarious, but also like that poor person. And I understood why everyone was booing. They're like, we're here to fucking get a potluck spot, and this goddamn idiot's doing their first, go to fucking Bert's back room.
Yeah. That's like a bunch of people in it. Like, that person probably didn't even understand why they're being booed.
Totally.
They're being booed because potluck is an audition. It's not it's not really an open mic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But there was this one person in my class, and she said she was taking the class because she has an intense fear of public speaking. That was like her whole thing. And when we did the class show, she crushed. It was one of the biggest crushes I've ever seen in stand-up ever. Because
is she still in stand-up?
Because she was so terrified. She was literally trembling on stage and could barely get a word out. And like her first line is, I am doing this because I'm very nervous about public speaking. And she just murdered because first off, it was so honest. And you could read the honesty straight through it. The more she gets on stage, the more comfortable she gets. She'll never be able to do it again.
Yeah.
It was like an unbelievable like experience of seeing one of the biggest crushes I've ever seen in my life from someone who, once they actually get comfortable doing stand-up, will lose the thing that makes them funny.
It's only downhill from here.
It's only downhill from here.
Unless she learns how to be that.
Yeah, I guess it's just like, I don't even think this person had funny perspectives or anything, but it's just like, I've never seen someone who's like, the first time they ever did stand-up will probably be the best time they ever do stand-up.
Yeah, but for all the wrong reasons.
For all the wrong reasons.
But if she could only harness that ability to be that nervous.
If she could harness it. If an agent was in the room watching her that day and thought this was like an Andy Kaufman type thing, it's like, you're straight to the top.
Does being in film and having the background interest in directing help you do stand-up? Like, does that thinking, or is it completely separate in your mind?
Well, I think I'm a very structural person in both regards. That like I very much try to structure my films, and I very much try to I like, my main living I make as a video editor. So
so your clips are amazing. You subtitle the crap out of your stand-up clips.
The funny thing is, I from making the documentary and doing my job, I almost get traumatized. I'm almost traumatized by it all, to the point when I start to work on my own like video postings. It's like I look at people putting out tons of TikToks, and I think about how I spent 5 years making this movie, and it's just like the idea of filming anything to me.
Right.
It's like an overwhelming psychological
well,
thing
you're used
for me.
to a larger production, so it's like you're not just going to whip out your camera and start filming your breakfast and dancing.
In part of talking about the authenticity thing, I'll tell you a way I kind of feel about like, listen, fucking power to everyone doing this. Like Maddie Shimbers in TikTok or Instagram, they're great. It's amazing. I'm so impressed by them. It's really, really remarkable what he's doing. There is a quality to all of them, not him specifically, but just all of it that I see, that just feels this certain kind of desperate for fame that I just can't stand.
Yeah.
that just you don't even want to be doing this. You are just putting it out here because you just want it to be the thing that skyrockets you. And listen, you got to do it. Like I'm the one who's wrong for not being able to live with myself doing that.
Right. But not really.
I just feel so compelled I feel so driven to like move towards authenticity, because that's what moves me the most.
I think that's the best thing you can do, because look, you're gonna have to commit to doing TikToks.
And I think Matty is someone who seems like he does like doing them, and that his come from a place of enjoyment, and they are really, really. I'm very, very impressed by.
And they're well
edited.
They're always getting better.
They're smart.
They're smart, exactly. So yeah, and I mean, I was just with him this morning, and he went home to film another one. So he enjoys doing it, and so if you don't enjoy doing it, how can you do it every week?
Right.
If every time and it's not authentic to you, then it just can't be your thing, and that's okay.
I wish more than anything I thought of something that I just wanted to do every day.
And
like
maybe
that.
You will.
Maybe I will. But it's like, I don't know if you saw the recent Instagram posts I did, like my shows for the month flyer.
Yeah, I was waiting to get to that. Yeah.
And the parody of people's shows flyer.
Yeah.
Maybe a specific show. But somebody said to me, they're like, hey, you found a thing, you got to keep doing these.
Right.
And for a moment I like almost put out another one, but I stopped myself, because I'm like, I'm just putting this one out to put it out. Those two like came to me from like a muse.
Right.
Those two were like authentic and true, and just like I got excited. I'm like, I have this idea. There is an excitement. There is a joy. There is something that feels like I have to do this.
Right. And you were saying something that many people have thought And like you spoke to people in the community with that specific post because everyone knew exactly what you were talking about.
With both of them.
Okay.
You saw.
I don't know if I saw. What was the second one? My shows for the month.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like I got a mic. I got like that one.
Yeah. I mean, people were telling me this is how it feels every month.
Yeah.
And I just like tried to. It's funny. I sent. There's a girl that I dated during the pandemic that we stopped dating, but
Comic?
No, super good friend. She's a psychologist, and we've just stayed. She's like my best
Amateur comic.
She's like my best friend now.
Okay.
And I had like, we joke with each other that she's my manager because I just basically like run everything by her.
Yeah.
And I sent her just a real show fly. Earlier that day, we got into like an argument because she was telling me to be more vulnerable on stage. And then later that day, I sent her just my actual flyer I was going to do. Like, look at me. These are all the shows I'm doing this month. And she just wrote back, eh. And then like I thought, and I was like, actually, this is what my month is really like. And I just wrote out what it really was. So
you made one.
I was standing in line at the Laugh Factory to not get up on the mic. And I just wrote it while I was in line.
So you were gonna do the typical post that everyone did, which was like, "Here's my flyers," and then she's like, "What are you doing?" Basically, and you went back and made it more funny.
Yeah, she didn't tell me like make fun of this.
No,
she just was like, who cares? And then I thought about the fact that like the monthly show flyer, I don't think anyone has ever come to a show of mine because of the monthly show flyer. Maybe. But most likely, like one or two people in the years I've put out monthly show flyers have come. I'm putting out the monthly show flyer to show all the other comedians on Instagram following me how many shows I'm doing. Who's the king of doing shows in LA?
You're managing your impression.
I'm managing
your
cultivating
my
image
of a guy who gets shows.
And again, in this moment of feeling like I need to be more authentic. Mm-hmm. I was like, well, what am I really doing? What is it really? What's the truth here? And I'll tie this all into the documentary. I mean, Al is my favorite because I think Al is the most authentic person I've ever met in my life.
Him specifically.
I mean, there might be I think Norm is someone who is equally authentic to Al.
Yeah. Norm Macdonald?
Yeah. I've never felt more affected by someone's death that I didn't know.
Did you know him? Oh, you didn't know.
I didn't know him. Yeah. I didn't know. It's the second time I've had the chance to meet somebody, didn't take it, and then they died before I got the chance again.
Oh, it sucks. He was scheduled to do the Comedy Bunker before he died.
Oh, Jesus.
It's just like, life is short, man. You gotta see your heroes and people. I regret never seeing him live either. There was a couple times he was in Irvine. I was like, I don't want to drive out there. And then like, you always got to take those opportunities.
You got to take them. Brody Stevens was doing a show that I did a mic at before, and I was like, Brody's performing all the time. I'll see him next time. And then he died a week later.
Yeah.
So yeah, take the opportunities. If you see that I'm performing somewhere, come to see me because you don't know when it'll be happening again or if ever.
Are you gonna go into that lane? Because it is kind of a lane you've kind of opened up for yourself.
What?
Of making fun of those. Being kind of like making fun of the scene guy.
Again, I always find that I'm doing my best things when I'm listening to the universe telling me what to do rather than trying to tell the universe what I want, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like I moved to Los Angeles because I felt like everything was calling for me to move to Los Angeles. And it feels like the best decision of my life when I did it. And New York is my favorite city in the world. I feel like I'm a New Yorker. I made a joke once that I went to New York to do stand-up, and I was like, I like the scene better in LA. You get so much more variety. In New York, everyone just felt like a worse version of me.
I think that's changed. It is the best city in the world for stand-up. It is like...
That was just a joke.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get what you're saying, because like...
There was a variety of comics worse than me in New York.
I have... I've only done an open mic in New York once. Mm-hmm. And it was exactly what you're describing. So
what, a bunch of worse versions of me?
Yeah. It was like you with like accounting day jobs.
Yeah.
And no material.
So I mostly try to let the world speak to me. Gary Goldman, when he was doing his tips, said something that I think is very true. Because someone was like, when do I write? How do I write? How do I write? And he just goes, you just write every day so that when something comes to you, you happen to be writing. Because you don't know when it's going to happen.
That's really good. I like that one.
You do it every day, and almost every day you're going to throw it all away. But every once in a while, you're going to be writing, and the muse is going to speak, and you're going to be glad you were writing when it did.
What's some of the advice you've given to like comedians when you're like, you've said, like you said earlier, hey, this guy could use
confident. Be confident is one of my biggest ones.
So you've pulled someone aside and said, hey, if you were more confident.
Too recently, where where like it's like I'm like, everything's good about what you're doing. I like your material.
You're like the David Carradine of comedy. You're just walking from place to place, giving people advice.
Well, I mean,
following your intuition.
I wouldn't go and do that to somebody randomly.
Okay.
But like these people I was friends with.
Okay, so you're doing your friends. You're giving your friends advice.
Yeah, like friends, friends is in like, I see them at open mics and like I like them and they like me and
or used to like you before you got unsolicited advice.
Before I started giving them unsolicited advice. I was in Chicago and there was this girl on stage doing this bit about how she's a cannibal, but she only eats vegans. And then I thought of a tag to give her. And then their next bit was about like, I'm so sick and tired of all these male comedians coming up and giving me advice on my comedy. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to give her this tag. But the tag I had was, she was like, grass-fed beef, grass-fed humans. Because she only eats vegans.
Right. I thought that's even funnier that she said it before you gave it to her.
Yeah, I was like, oh, no, not giving her grass-fed humans anymore.
Yeah, but like every time someone says something to me, I love it.
I love it too.
But sometimes I just like I don't say it to other people. Sometimes I'm like, is it worth potentially pissing off this person I don't really know?
I always want the tag. If someone has one for me, I mean. There are some tags and jokes in my sets that were given to me.
Yeah.
It's
how it happens.
Yeah.
It can be bonding too, especially when it's a good one and from someone you like. And
well, I had a funny situation happen recently where I was at a mic and somebody asked a question and I had a bit that I'd been working on that like actually answered the question and I said it and then they asked me, can I have that? And like in the moment, I felt uncomfortable, so I said yes. And then I later messaged them. I was like, "Hey, that's actually like a bit I'm working on. I don't want to give it away."
Oh no!
I feel real bad. I was just feeling awkward in the moment. But I also gave that person a bunch of other jokes.
Like, here's 10 more tags.
Oh, I gave them like 3 more tags in that mic.
Yeah.
And then like I've given them since even more tags.
Right, because you still feel bad.
I still feel bad. I felt real I almost just like gave it up, but I really liked the premise.
It is funny how often we can blurt things out in the nervousness. You're like, or why did I say that? Or why did I give that away? Or like, why did I do that? Because we're just trying to like fill the air with like, I mean, speaking of fill the air, but like, we're all just trying to like make a connection. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we get awkward.
But so to talk about the documentary a little bit, at least. Al is the most authentic comic I've ever met. He's just the most authentic person I've ever met. And I think him, just like Norm, is a victim of his authenticity. Like Norm's like the guy who's famous for like doing the joke that he knows is going to lose him the job. Anyway, because he cares about the comedy first.
Right.
And like I when I made the doc, I had this thought looking at him, how Al is all of my greatest hopes and all of my biggest fears in one person. Have you seen did you watch the doc?
I haven't.
Okay. So you don't even know. But you should check it out.
I will. I still feel bad that you were trying to get him on the Comedy Bunker a night. I was super booked when he was in town, and I just couldn't make it happen. But
okay, yeah, it's fine. You should have Al on sometime. He's the funniest person in the world. I mean, sometimes everyone has bad nights, but like when Al is on, I discovered him. The whole like impetus for making the movie was when I was 15 years old. He came to my local comedy club. I had no idea who he was. I just went to the club that night, and to this day, I've never laughed harder in my life. It was the funniest comedy set I've ever seen.
So to come from 15 and then to make the documentary now, it's like
At 18, I asked him if I could make a documentary about him. He said no.
Whoa.
Then at 26, when I was living in LA, I saw he was performing somewhere. I went to go see him. He was doing his set that he won Edinburgh with. And it was like my second favorite stand-up live performance I've ever seen, only to his show that I saw at 15. And I tweeted at him, "Hey, Al, saw your show, loved it, would love to make something with you sometime." 4 years later, I get a tweet back to me saying, "Hey, Josh, thanks for coming to my show. Just found out I have a Twitter and saw your message. Would love to talk." And it was perfect timing because I just finished making a web series I spent 4 years on, and was actually thinking about reaching out to him again about doing this.
Amazing. So how many years in the making from
15 to 36, so 21 years.
21 years in the making.
Yeah, 21 years in the making.
And all this time, had you, like, did it still linger and you were thinking of ideas, or you just put it away until you talked to him again?
Yeah, actually, there were different forms that the whole thing took. At the end of the day, I just found that there was this moment where it was like, this is the moment to start filming. He was going on a tour. He was going to play in Atlantic City, and then he was going to go visit his dying 93-year-old mother in South Florida. And I was like, if ever there's been, he was like living on his friend's couch in LA. I'm like, if ever there's a moment to make a documentary on somebody, it's right now. So I just I took my life savings and I just I got my friend who had a camera, and I was like, let's go start making this. And we followed him, filmed it, and then I spent a year kind of like I had like 100 hours of footage, and I just kind of little by little just put it together. I had a note card above my computer that says, as long as you do one thing a day, you'll be one thing closer to finishing. Because it was daunting.
I can't even, 100 hours. That's a lot of footage.
At the end of the day, once
you cut it down, what, to 90?
To around 87 minutes, I think. Or maybe it's 96.
And you're self-editing, right? So it's just you?
Just sitting there and like kind of like each scene and just kind of like finding what is this about, and like ultimately, I don't know. Everyone has a different read on the movie. I mean, I've gotten pretty roundly positive reactions.
I saw Judd Apatow tweeted about it.
Gary Goldman wrote the nicest tweet of anyone.
I saw that one too. That was amazing.
And he messaged me and told me to call him when I go to New York.
Hey.
So I'll see you soon, Gary.
See you.
But I just kind of like at a weird point, the movie sort of became about everything to me, if that makes sense. So it started out just a movie on this guy, but it came about like the choices we make in life, the way we're raised, and how I feel like I feel like all of us are just kind of children dealing with our childhood traumas.
Pretty much.
The only thing that's changed now from when we were kids is that we can go to jail forever. That's
right. And we don't we're fully autonomous, so to speak.
We're fully autonomous.
We don't have parents.
I can eat as many pizza bagels as I want. You can't tell me to stop, Mom.
Cannot tell you to stop. That's amazing. Well, I'm definitely going to watch it. Where do people find it?
You can rent it pretty much where it can be rented anywhere, but the majority of people have been renting it on Amazon.
Yeah. And when you were editing the movie, because they say you make the first movie when you write it, second when you direct it, third when you edit. Mm-hmm. Did it change a lot? Like the story you were telling through the editing, did it
Well, that's
modify?
where I found the story.
You found it in the edit.
I made my web series before, and my web series is like very deliberate. Like, I planned every second of it.
Like shot lists.
Yeah, like the editing of my web series went by very fast because it was just put it together the way I planned.
Yeah.
And then, so I kind of say now that narrative is painting, documentary is sculpture. Because narrative, you have a blank canvas and you put whatever you think of on it. Documentary, you have a block of marble and you just chip away until you find the work inside.
Right, because the story that gets told can change depending on what you shot. Because you have so much footage to
I didn't know
work
where
with.
it was going to go. In fact, to get Final Cut, to convince Al to give me Final Cut on the doc where he couldn't tell me not to put anything in it. I said, well, what if I'm making the movie and I find out you're a serial killer? I can't have you telling me not to put in the stuff about you being a serial killer. And he goes, that's a good point.
That is the most hilarious way. You won him over with a joke.
Yeah, kind of.
And he gave you final cut?
Yeah. He oh he goes, that's a good point.
Here's the bodies. Wow. See, being a comedian helped you in your documentary work. You wouldn't have got final cut without that joke.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think I'm oftentimes at my very funniest when I'm talking to Al. Like, we have the funniest conversations.
He's your Larry David.
We've talked about doing a podcast where, like, he calls me all the time with, like, the most minute problem. And it's just breaking down his entire world. And, like, I'll have these hour-long conversations about how insane he is.
Like, how to pay the gardener?
Like, he'll be like, this person told me to email them. And then I, like, didn't email them for, like, 2 days. Do you think they're mad at me? Yeah. I'm really worried because they haven't responded yet. It's been 2 hours.
You're like, you didn't tweet me back for 4 years. 2 days is pretty good there, Al.
Yeah. I'm like, here's the funniest. Here's my favorite. My favorite one is when I told him Judd Apatow agreed to do an interview for the documentary, he goes, great, now I'm going to owe Judd a favor. That was how he reacted. I was like, what fucking favor is Judd Apatow ever going to ask of you, Al? The only thing I come up with is, like, if he needs a fall guy for one of his kids one day.
Right. That's why it's so funny. Yeah.
But it was sincere. He was sincere to, like, great, now I'm going to owe Judd a favor.
He wasn't being sarcastic?
He wasn't being sarcastic. But when I point it out to him, he cracks up.
Right. Yeah, you guys should start a pod. It's already funny.
I know.
And I haven't even met him.
Well, I told him last time he called me because he was, like, worried that, like, he invited somebody to see his show and he was worried that they were going to think he was weird for inviting them. I was like, Al, you're not allowed to call me anymore unless I can just record these calls.
That's the pod.
What? Yeah,
it happens over the phone.
It feels like it'd be hard to get. I built a little podcast studio like this in my house that I haven't used yet. So I'd like to use it. Yeah. But it also feels like it makes sense to just record the calls.
Yeah, because that would be super hilarious, and then you kind of have that effect on it, and they just come out whenever. He calls you a Tuesday at 3. The podcast is out at 3:30.
Yeah, it's just like helping Al with his most minute of problems. But he'll start panicking about the fact that these things he's obsessing about are getting released on a podcast.
I mean, as long as they're not his actual serial killer admissions, like that's pretty good. So do you have any shows coming up this week?
I have a show. Well, I have a show tonight.
Hey, we're
at Fourth Wall.
Nice.
I have a show tomorrow at the Beach Mic, Mary Romeo's show.
Ocean Mic. That's great. I love the Ocean Mic.
I worry. I tweeted a thing yesterday, and I was just tweeting it to be funny and, again, comment on, like, the nature of comedy. But I do worry that I, like, might have upset. I don't know if she even saw it, but I deleted it because I'm like, maybe she'll get offended by this. I don't know if you saw it. I just tweeted, like, because there's 4 pictures on the poster, none of them are me. And I was like, one day I hope to be successful enough to make it onto the flyer of a 5:30 show on the beach.
It's okay. I've done the show and not been on the flyer too.
I'm not upset. I'm actually happier about the joke I thought of about how miserable. See, that one was like the muse speaking to me about the misery of the industry.
It is funny, and you probably would offend her.
I know. I ended up deleting it later in the day. I was like,
I don't know. I don't know.
I hope she just find it funny and know that, like, I said, for now, you just have to trust that I'm on the show.
Right.
But
I mean, when you did the one about the very famous show we all know, part of you must have been like, all right, well, I'm not going to get booked on this now.
But also looking at every flyer, the funny thing is I'm like, I don't fit the profile of anybody who gets booked on this show to begin with. So it's not like I'm
the profile you made, though.
No, but, like, the profile I made was based on, like, looking at all the flyers.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't fit any. They'll never book me to begin with.
Do you ask to get on shows?
I used to not. Prior to the pandemic, I didn't. And I think, you might be able to relate to this. Now that I'm booking a show again, I have my show at the Improv now, Undiscovered Genius. Check it out, November 13th is the next one. Booking a show is the quickest way to get people in the scene to hate you.
Who had that quote? It was, it's the easiest way to make a lot of friends quickly and a lot of enemies over time.
Yeah. A lot of friends quickly and a lot of enemies over time. Perfect. And I would be like, well, I have my show. I don't want to do any bookings that are favor bookings. I just want to book people who, if they don't book me on their show, I don't care that they didn't book me on their show because that's not why I booked them.
Exactly.
So when I go, but getting all these messages from people, many of which have shows, and telling them, I'm sorry, I booked the show once a month and it's 5 people on the lineup and I'm booked up for 6 months. I can't then message them like, hey, can I do your show? But at the same time, I'm like...
You're doing it right, because I recently have, like, I generally feel the same way. I'm like, I don't want to do trades. I don't want to do any of that stuff. I just want to make a good show. That's it. So... that's what we're doing, and that's what you're doing.
But once I got out of the pandemic, I was just like, fuck it. I'm going to just ask. I'm just going to ask. I don't care anymore. I actually have a very specific message I write. I think it's pretty funny. I go, hey, listen, I totally get it. I totally understand how booking shows go, but I would love to do your show sometime. If you would have me, great. And if you can't, don't worry. I'll just ruin your career when I'm famous.
That's good. But like, I think it's funny, and I know you.
Yeah.
I think actually, if I didn't know you, I'm just thinking like, if I got that message from someone I didn't know, I'd be like, all right, it's kind of funny.
Yeah, I just like, this is the funniest way.
I wonder if you might actually not everyone is going to feel that way.
I mean, it's funny. I was just saying this the other day. I've learned that like some people take the inside jokes I've been playing with them seriously for like the entire time I've been doing it with them. Like,
even on your, what was the one where you're like, don't worry, I'm not talking about you?
When I was just talking shit about,
it was like the Jay-Z face.
Where he's like going up.
Yeah.
But, when I see a comic, I was just talking shit about who books a show I want to be on.
Yeah, it's like you kind of giving them a hug. Yeah.
Don't worry, I'm not talking about you.
Right. I'm sure just people who don't like you now because of that.
Probably. Do you like me?
I didn't think you... I mean, to me, I couldn't... First of all, you're on the podcast, so I like you.
Yeah, I've been booked.
And second of all...
I like you. So now I like you.
Right. But like also, like, I don't get offended by that kind of stuff, me personally, but I think some people would.
I'll say this, I have talked... When the person told me I was a phony, I had a moment of thinking, like, I do tend to talk shit about certain people and then be kind of phony in front of them. And instead of not being phony in front of them, I was like, well, let me just try and stop talking the shit.
That's probably the better way.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, you could be, like, commenting on someone. Or it's like, it's a gossip, It's probably better to stop gossiping in general. It's not good for your mental health and all that stuff.
I still do it with certain people.
But what are you gonna do?
In the tongue-in-cheek way.
Yeah, but what are you going to do? See that person? Like, what does the person who's calling you a phony expect you to do? Josh didn't go up and punch the guy in the face?
No, I actually still love the person who called me a phony.
Right, but like, what is
love them dearly.
What do they want you to do? Like, how are you supposed to act? The person walks in the room, or you get booked on a show with this phony person. You say egg them,
be a dick. Just start being a dick to people. I was actually parodying the Goldman tips for a while. I would do Edelman tips every day.
Yeah.
One of my Edelman tips was like, don't be nice to new comedians. There's no way they're going to be the one who makes it.
That's funny.
or like, if you're a new comedian, make sure not to laugh at any of the older comedians' jokes. It's a great way to let them know you're already better than them.
That's funny.
Yeah.
See, you do have a lane. You've just been carving it.
I have. Yeah, I've been. They actually, for me, like getting 20 likes on a tweet was viral at the time. So
that is viral today. Twitter is an insane place.
That would average hard 20 for me back then.
Yeah. But you're not. It doesn't offend you that this person called you a phony.
No.
And you guys have since made up.
They don't like me, and I love them.
What?
Yeah.
Your life is blowing my mind. So this person doesn't like you. You like them?
Totally. Yeah. I like him very much.
And are they aggressive to you? Do you like him because you like the comedy, or because
I think he's a very funny comic. I consider him one of my very first friends when I started doing comedy. One of the first people I felt like comfortable being around. I totally know why he thinks I'm a phony. I think he's kind of a jerk. I think he's kind of a jerk to a lot of people unnecessarily, but I don't know. He's certainly not a phony.
But are you friends?
We're like fake friends. But we're fake friends because he doesn't like me, but I love him.
Oh my God. This is hilarious. This needs to be something.
You can like somebody who doesn't like you, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like you can be in love with people who don't love you.
Right. That's usually, but that's why this is so funny. Like, this is normally the premise of like a rom-com. But it's like a friendship. It's like a platonic com.
It's like it's a platonic com. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's funny. Someone was saying to me recently how they don't like comedians, and I was like, I love comedians.
I only like comedians.
I love comedians. I just don't think they're funny.
That's hilarious.
It's like part of me is so much more ingrained in the comedy world right now than the film world because I can't fucking stand film people, and I love comedy people. I think we are authentic. I think we are the more authentic group.
Yeah. Do you just not like watching comedy?
I was like, my goal with my show is to book. My goal with my show, Undiscovered Genius, is I'm like, who are the people that I think are fucking hilarious that aren't getting like quite the recognition they deserve?
Yeah.
I feel like I almost put like 2 people on who are getting.
We got to do a list of a little. You give me 5, and I'll give you 5.
Of people I think aren't getting the recognition they deserve.
Well, finish your point first.
And I was like, all right, and then like I wrote the lineups for 2 shows, and then I'm like, all right, now I'm starting to struggle.
Rita, how do you feel about this show doing it twice?
But no, I keep finding people, but there's a little bit like what I'm starting to have to feel like I have to define what that line is, because there are 2 people I booked on this one that I feel like you could argue are getting the recognition, but maybe not the recognition I feel they deserve, like Simon Gibson. I mean, Simon's been on JFL. Yeah, he was on a TV show. I almost feel like I booked him and almost regret it, like he's sort of crossed the threshold of where my line is.
If you're too tight, you just said it. If you're too tight, you're going to put on 5 people and the show's over. Like, I mean, there are people who have had their first accolades that still aren't household names. Mm-hmm. And you'll relate as a show booker now or whatever. It's like, we book these people like, oh, this person's huge, but they're huge in our world.
And they're not even. I mean, one of my jokes on the show poster, which this wasn't directed at this was just directed at like a lot of things. I had like supposedly big time comic who doesn't actually get anyone out to the shows but gets booked on everything.
Yeah.
Like I was doing a show, and I was saying to this person,
that's like, most comics.
I was doing a show with this guy, and I was like, I was telling him to let me headline. I was like, let me do the 20 on this. Like I'll do a good I promise you I'll do a great job. He's like, I know I need to get somebody bigger. And he got someone who's bigger, didn't do as well as me, and brought out no one.
Right.
And the funny thing is, if I had that headlining spot, I would have been like, hey, come see me do 20.
Right. And maybe now they'll learn that.
Maybe.
That's actually a very good tip to people who want to headline, because they should lead with that. They should lead with the little story you just said, because it's like, hey, like you could, if you're holding out for someone bigger, like get me. I have 20 that crushes, and I will get people out, and it'll be a great show. Mm-hmm. Just trust me.
Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing was, my old show, Hot Dates, that I used to book with Reed Brackenberry and Jeremy McKiernan.
Yeah.
We would get into arguments.
They could go on your
absolutely. Jeremy's on the first one.
Yeah.
And Reed will be on one.
Yeah.
I love both of them.
Yeah.
They fit into the. There's two of my 5.
Wait, I just used them as 2 of my 5.
Well, okay. We'll discuss. But right. What was I just talking about?
I don't know.
Okay, well, I guess we can just do the 5 since I forgot. the headline thing.
Oh, headline.
We were booking our show, and The first show we did, I gave somebody who I thought was hilarious that like never gets a headlining spot, the headlining spot to do 20. And they fucking went up and they brought everything they had. And like some people came to specifically see them and stayed at the show because they wanted to see this person do a longer set because they hadn't. And it was great. And then the second time we picked somebody who was like bigger, like one of the people who was like on every show and like kind of a headliner. Not one person came out to see them, and they sort of dicked around the whole time.
Right.
Meanwhile, one of the people who was on the show earlier, who I would have liked to have given that to, who like I thought of as like equal to the person who we had headline the first one, fucking murdered it. And I was like, I would have so much rather watched her do 20 minutes than the person we put up.
What's like being authentic as a booker too? Like you knew that going into it. Right.
Well, from that point forward, we had like the rule that the headliner was going to be somebody that like never gets a headlining spot that we like.
But did you like before you booked the headliner that didn't take it seriously? Did you know that they were going to do that? Or
yeah, one of the three of us was like, we need to get someone who's like bigger, and then two of the other of us were like, nobody's bigger. Yeah. it's just a fake thing that like we've convinced ourselves in our head. That person was on TV. But like in LA, it doesn't matter if you're not fucking Bill Burr. You're not getting anyone out to the...
I would say there's 20 people.
Yeah, maybe. Exactly.
You think that's just because there's too many shows now in LA?
Yeah, well, I have a joke that like when I do open mics in Florida, they're better than shows in LA. Because I'll be doing an open mic in Florida and people will be like, guys, there's a show happening. Let's watch this show. And I'll be doing shows in LA and guys, there's a show. I'm not watching another fucking. We got to go somewhere else.
Yeah, it's true. Well, because some shows are ambush shows.
Yeah.
And some mics in other cities, especially at clubs, they're like a night. It's people's night out.
People go to the open. Like when I go to Florida, there's an open mic that is just full of atrocious comedians.
Yeah.
That is standing room only. If you don't show up early enough to like get in, I can't even get into the mic to put my name in the hat.
Right. It's, when you see that happen, you're like, how do you have this? And we have to do the bar show here.
Because here you have the option to go to the Comedy Store and see fucking like Mark Maron, Dave Chappelle, Sarah Silverman, Joe Rogan, Jeff Ross, all on one lineup.
Because we have comedy every night of the week.
We have comedy every night of the week, and there are 3 places that have one of those 20 people on it each night.
So if you're the one club in the town and this is where you see comedy and your night is the open mic night, it doesn't matter. You're just going to have people and a real audience.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense. Let's do our top 5s.
So I can't use Jeremy or Reed. They're eliminated.
I might use them as well if I can't think of 3 more.
People that like I love who I don't think are getting...
Well, you're booking your show. It can be you can even divulge the... I don't know, is your lineup secret? Or
No. My lineup for the first show is Jeremy McKiernan, Angelica Mackey, Raj Desai, Simon Gibson, Lizzie Cooperman, and then I have Nikki Bond and Malcolm Kellner doing video things that they do, and Nikki's also going to do some time.
Nice. That works. Mm-hmm. Now I need 3 more. The pressure's on me. I'm going to put you on there.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Damn. 2 more. There's so many people who don't get love. I don't know. He's kind of cresting. I don't know. I'll get 2 more by the end of it.
Who's cresting? Who were you guys? Maddie. Yeah, Maddie is like hitting that next level now.
Yeah.
Those because he does really good videos. But you know what's funny? It's like I'm looking at Maddie's numbers and they're like good. But there are people who are crushing his numbers with just content that is dog shit.
That's the thing. It's like
it's insane to me. There's one of my items on the show poster. Again, this one wasn't even referencing. I like how I'm like trying to not say it and then I just say it each time.
Are you trying to get away from it?
No. It's over. I'm done. Bleep it out on when you're editing.
Yeah. I'm gonna send you the edited version of this episode. It's gonna be 1 minute.
No. You can leave everything. One of them was like a guy with lots of TikTok followers has been doing stand up for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's just like there are people that like have millions upon millions of followers that you see on stage and you're like, you are a week 3 open micer.
Yeah, it's true. I'm gonna see. Okay, so if I was doing your show, this is where I already understand the problem you're getting into with like a Simon, because I would say Robbie Hoffman as well. Like she's already big.
Doesn't she have like a show coming out that's like centered on
but
her?
Also it's like I would still like feel like would fall under the category.
She deserves more.
Not deserves more, but like the show's called Undiscovered Genius. Mm-hmm. I would still put her on, like,
she's unbelievable.
Right, she's so funny, and it's like, so that I'm basically sympathizing with your issue there. It's like I would put her and Simon as like people who are already kind of like,
totally. You know, it's like already kind of happened for them. Do they qualify? Part of me put Simon on because Simon was supposed to headline the very last show.
You could put them on as a headliner.
The very last show that got canceled before the pandemic for me, for my brunch show.
Oh, Ben Bradford?
Ben Branfon, definitely. He's on my list for my lineup for next week. I feel like
you and I have similar taste.
Ben Branfon is unbelievably funny.
Yeah.
I call him ASMR Seinfeld.
That's so funny. He's, again, like very funny, and his jokes are like so good.
So such a good joke. Someone told me, someone was telling me, they're like, oh, we saw this comedian and they reminded me of you. They were like really good joke. I was like, who the fuck? Who? And they said Ben Branford. I was like, oh, okay, and I'll take that as a compliment.
Like I'll take that.
I was real like on my territory kind of, and then they said Ben. I was like, oh, I take that as a compliment.
Right. I mean, I would put Ricardo Flanagan on there. I mean,
I don't even know them.
He just passed, unfortunately, but he was so funny.
He died?
Yeah, he died. He died like last week. Rest in
my
peace.
God.
But he was one of those guys who was super funny.
Way to take it down.
I know. Way to just... Yeah, can't book him now.
Well, so like in the vein of Norm, Gilbert Gottfried's another person I like put in like the Norm Al vein of just like so deeply authentic and fearless. There's like I've always so appreciated Brendan Cooney. Brendan Cooney will go on my list of those things. Brendan, I love Brendan's fearlessness. It's he did this like map of like I think it was like Germany taking over Europe during World War II, but he just changed it to Fourth Wall and then the LA comedy scene, and like you just see it like taking over. He just does things like that are unreal.
That's hilarious. I'm going to put forward a scenario for you. William Morris agent reaches out. He says, hey, I have a comic you've never heard of. Can you put them on your show? You don't think they're funny?
I don't think they're funny?
Do you put them on?
I probably don't. I'm self-destructive in that way.
I mean, how is that self-destructive though? You're playing the long game.
I'm playing. Well, here I'll tell you. You want to know where I really? I'm on antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds right now, which might be helping me with like all this fearlessness.
You are a
stuff.
bit more outgoing than I've seen you be before.
It's the best decision I've ever made in my fucking life.
Really?
Oh yeah. It's
like a chemical imbalance.
The thing that depresses me now is that I didn't go on them earlier.
How long have you been on them?
Since like April.
Okay.
Changed my life.
So because I did notice you have an extra like pep in your step, and I wasn't because I was like, oh wow, Josh really brings it on the pod, or is it a combination of that and the depressants?
Somebody told me it's like watching, they're like I've only seen people with your level of change like that came out of AA, and I was like, you just think that because I didn't laugh at your jokes at open mics beforehand.
And I won't.
And I will continue to not.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, it was just something that like I just wish I had done, honestly, just at the start of the pandemic. It was like Mike 2, I realized last year was the worst year of my life.
Mike 2?
Oh, the second Mike I did after the pandemic reached its new phase, reached its current phase of like
Delta and stuff? Or
no, just like when I stopped locking down and started doing mics again.
Okay, yeah. Oh, Mike 2 back.
Mike 2 back.
Okay, yeah, you got it.
I was holy shit. Last year was the worst year of my life. I didn't even realize that until this moment.
Because you needed stand-up as part of the...
I just accepted it so quickly. I actually kind of predicted it because I told my therapist, like, I told my therapist, I think I want to go on something because I've been able to deal with this. But the second the world returns, I'm going to feel all the loss of what I had. Like, I'm going to the world changed. So I just looked at it as I'm in my house now.
Yeah.
But the second I'm able to be out in the world again, I'm going to feel everything I lost the last time I was out in the world, which I felt was a lot.
Right. So like, it's kind of like some people didn't want to leave the pandemic. Was that kind of how you felt?
I'm
like,
starting to feel that way a little bit.
Well, it's kind of like jail because you're like, I have my new system now.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to reintegrate.
I got halfway through a novel. I just wanted to finish the novel before the pandemic ended. Reading one.
It was Catcher in the Rye.
Reading one. Yeah. Not writing. Now I'll never know what happens to Holden. It's very short. It was The Stranger too. It was only 90 pages.
Right. Yeah.
I got halfway through writing.
I have
one.
The Stranger somewhere. Have you read it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or I'm halfway through.
Are you a writer as well? Like for scripts and stuff?
Yeah. I've written a bunch of screenplays, and like I said, halfway through writing this novel, which I'm like, I got to get back to.
Well, like a lot of people in the biz side of comedy have like their slash, so it's like they're a comedian / actor, comedian / movie maker. Is that yours?
/ filmmaker.
Filmmaker.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. That would be my.
Because it wouldn't be comedian / editor, because that would be like a day job.
Yeah. So it's my day job. I'm miserable.
Is it a bad day job? Oh,
it's actually.
I want to show you something. Hold on. Tell me about how miserable it is. Look what I found on the street. So they're always making movies across the street from me, like in that parking lot, and I just found this laying on the ground, and I picked it up. I was like, it's a guide to becoming...
What a sad thing to like... a guide to becoming a successful assistant editor in film and TV.
It's like the book with like the lowest expectations.
How to become a PA.
Yeah, it's like...
on set. How to become an office
There's
PA.
There's literally a page in here about how to make coffee.
It's a long book. Like, if you can get through reading this book, you should have higher aspirations.
You should just read the book to Final Cut and call yourself an editor.
Somebody like, you know that red flag thing that was like trending on Twitter the other day?
No.
There was like people like posting thing and then a bunch of red flags, like these are red flags. And it was like a thing that was trending. Someone like said like if your favorite authors are Vonnegut, Hemingway, and Bukowski, and I was like, at least I read.
Right. I mean, Hemingway is one of mine.
Hemingway, Bukowski, and Vonnegut are probably my three favorite writers.
I like Bukowski. I wouldn't put him as my favorite, but...
he has this way of making me wish I lived a shitty life.
You can always become an alcoholic.
Well, it's just like you read him, and it's like if you look at the...
I got whiskey right there.
It sounds like the reality of his life is miserable and horrible, but he writes it in a way that makes you romanticizes it in this way where you almost wish you lived it.
Is it just because we're all yearning for adventure?
Maybe, yeah.
It's like why we play video games.
He's like Hemingway. I think Bukowski's like Hemingway without like the hunt, without the big game hunting. It's just
he's like a Hemingway for the city.
He just makes it like living in a shitty apartment.
Yeah,
like a low rent shitty apartment is like his big game hunting.
Yeah, and it's like
it's that authenticity that I'm talking about, like really like striving for or trying to find.
Like, are you still far from it?
Far from that authenticity
for yourself?
I was saying this to my therapist recently that I don't think I'll ever be satisfied, which is why I think I'll actually be good, but I won't ever know what happened.
Can you say it one more time?
I don't think I'll ever be satisfied,
yeah.
Which is why I think I'll actually get to the place I want to be, but why I won't ever notice that I've gotten there.
Oh, right, because you're too busy, like... Well, that's just...
I just want to be better. I just like... There's... It's funny. I'm happy to be a before picture on like a P90X before and after photo.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be a before photo when it comes to like my physical appearance. But like when it comes to like comedy or filmmaking, I just want to do everything I can to be the best at it. And it's like not like I want like I don't want to cut anyone down. I just want to keep striving to be better. I think there are people that get complacent and just there is no end game for me. I'm always looking at what's the thing I can get better at.
Well, we're all self-driven. Like if you don't want to write better jokes, then you won't. There's no one telling you to.
Well, it's like the person who just does the same 5 minutes every time. It's like they're good at that song.
And I think even in the Comedy Store documentary, I think Neil Brennan basically had like a little monologue about that as well. It's like, hey, like if you don't keep writing, you're not really...
There's a thing where it's like I have to say to myself, I'll sit there and I go, Josh, you're going to suck this month, but you're going to suck this month and be a better comedian the month after. And I go, and it's just like I have to accept. I think a lot of people are afraid to accept once they've started gotten good that in order to continue to get better, they need to suck. And Al gave me kind of like a warning about this because he was telling me like he would go up a bunch and he would be trying new things. He would be trying to evolve and push the envelope further and further into like the things that he does. And you know, I'd say like the past 5 years, he's been the best I've ever seen him when he's on because he just has, it just goes so deep. It goes so deep. And it's just like he's pushed everything as far as it can go. And every time I think he's pushed something as far as it can go, he finds another dimension to it.
Yeah.
But he got that from being willing to fail. And then his willingness to fail caused people to be like, we don't want to book Al because he's a wild card.
There's a pressure, like you said, when you start doing well, and especially New York, LA, where it's a showcasey type town, to always be your best.
I have a good friend, and it's funny. You never know. In Los Angeles, you never fucking know.
I'll tell you how you know.
I'll tell you two stories.
Okay.
I'll tell you how much you never fucking know. One is the show I was doing with Jeremy and Reed. We were doing it. Jeremy got very upset because we were doing it outside at El Cid. And like people weren't coming to it.
That's a tough room to get people to.
Tough room.
Yeah.
There were like 3 people at the bar. I what's it called?
Especially if there's a show going on inside at the same time.
I barked them in.
Okay.
I barked them in. They're sitting there. Jeremy decides he doesn't even want to go up because he's just like mad that it's like 3 people. After the show, one of them comes up to me and goes, "Hey, I work for this agent. I forget who they are. I told him I was at a show. He said, tell me if there's anyone worth like looking into." And he's like, "Can you give me the contact for you and these 2 people?" And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Randomly 3 people sitting here. One of them works for Dane Cook's agent.
Right.
Nothing ever came of it, but it's just like, you know.
Yeah.
And then the other one is one of my best friends is a very big agent at CAA. Represents a bunch of people you definitely know in comedy. She's always asking me to come to open mics with me. And like sometimes she'll just come to like the Comedy Nook and she's just sitting there watching people at the Comedy Nook that have no idea that the person sitting there represents some of the biggest fucking people in comedy.
That's hilarious.
People that are in the 20.
Yeah.
that like bring.
And is she looking for new clients or is she just keeping her ear to the ground?
She just like... She's always keeping her ear to the ground, but I think she just enjoys it. You know, I think she just like enjoys being like around the realness sometimes.
Oh wow, that's cool. That's a good agent.
Yeah, yeah. She's one of my best friends. She's like one of my favorite people in the world.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's like it's like you're going to hear like the real music in the street or like the real stuff, and it's like because you can get really detached in your own world, especially if you're working with the top, and you know you're dealing with all that money coming in and all that stuff. So
I like literally once a week she messages me, "You doing any mics tonight?"
Yeah. And
she doesn't always come, but she like asks and
that's sweet, you know,
interested and she wants to come and she has a good time.
Right. See, you being authentic is you're building your own power structure of people who know you as being an authentic person. And you know, you're not going to get there any other way.
And she comes to my shows and I'm like, oh great, you know, here's an opportunity for her to see the people who I think are the funniest people in Los Angeles that don't have reps. I mean, nothing's going to happen most likely, but it's just nice to get something. Well,
I mean, because like you're positioning yourself as a tastemaker now because you're doing documentaries about people you think are funny. You're doing a show, right? Mm-hmm. That's very clearly like Josh thinks these people are good and undiscovered, right? Mm-hmm. So you have good advice for people. So you almost have a lot of self-awareness about the business and about like what it takes to be a good manager that a lot of people don't have. A lot of artists don't have. Mm-hmm. Like I could see if you told me you're like, hey, I used to manage people, I'd be like, I totally get it. Because it takes you have to have taste and you have to have talent to know like what to do with it. This town needs people to tell people like what to do. Like you would be good at that, because a lot of people are lost and don't know.
I'll give you a great...
To the point where, I don't know if you heard this interview with Seinfeld, but he was talking about Norm, and they're like, oh, but after he passed, the town didn't know what to do with him. The town didn't know what to do with him. And he's like, it's not the town's job to figure out what to do with you. He's like, I was on Seinfeld, or I was on The Tonight Show like 3 times a year for 9 years. He's like, guess how many times my phone rang? 0. And you're like, it's your job to figure it out for yourself.
So yeah, totally. Well, one thing I was talking to the agent, and I was like, what do I do to like to get an agent? To like what's your advice? And she goes, when you're ready for one, they usually find you.
Yeah, exactly.
She goes, when the time comes, it happens.
Yeah.
And she also is like, I'm keeping my eye on.
Yeah.
She's just an incredible friend of mine, and I try to not like let any of that get in the way of us being good friends.
And that's like, if you really think about it, she's not only giving you advice, which is very accurate advice, she's also giving you advice about your relationship with her. Like, you are already self-aware enough to know that like you shouldn't try to leverage that friendship into getting an agent.
Yeah. No.
If you weren't, she's also telling you that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I almost never ask her for career stuff. I just like once I was just like, what's your advice on this?
Yeah. Well, the reality is this town's a small circle of people and everyone knows each other. So your reputation gets around very quickly. So
what was the... Oh, I was going to tell you this because you were saying the manager thing.
Yeah.
When I was in starting in middle school, I loved Jerry Maguire, and I just decided to be a sports agent in 7th grade, and I just signed all the 7th grade best athletes to these like dumb contracts that like I wrote up, and was like trying to figure out what to do to like be an agent. Nothing ever came of that. But when I was in high school,
LeBron signed to you. That's why you have a house.
When I was in 9th grade, or 10th grade, my friend had a band in high school, and I was like, and I like signed them to be their manager. And then I created a club at my school to throw a fundraiser for the club to make a soundtrack for a movie. And the soundtrack was just their first album.
Oh,
and
hilarious.
I like raised the money to record their album through that club. And then I went around to all these places, like all these venues, and would give them the albums and be like, I want to book this band I rep here. And they'd like, people would be like, all right, I'll give the thing to the person who does that. And then they got mad at me. They're like, how come no one like is booking us? And I'm like, I don't know. And then one day my mom comes up to me and she's like, do you know what the Nugget Fiasco is? Their name was the Nougat Fiasco. And I go, yeah, that's my friend's man. She's like, we keep getting phone calls at like 10 o'clock at night asking to speak to the manager of the Nugget Fiasco.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I just was like, I just had to go to bed. They just like made me go to bed before these people would get into their offices because they work nights, and they're thinking they're calling to like leave messages
right
for this agent that represents this band.
Are you the Nougat Factory's mom?
Yeah. And my mom's like, you have the wrong number. She just keep hanging up on them. And
oh my God.
So,
well, if you're able, we'll end on this, but if you're able to take your manager hat and give yourself advice, what would it be? Josh telling Josh what he needs to hear.
Isn't that the hardest thing?
The hardest.
Isn't that the hardest?
But I believe, after talking to you for an hour and 26 minutes, I believe you can do it.
I mean, I think I do listen to myself. Someone told me, my mom told me, I mean, it's a famous quote, but she told this to me, and this is kind of a motto I live by. You need to get lucky in this business. It's part of it. Luck is opportunity meets preparedness.
Yeah.
You can't predict when the opportunity is going to come. So all you can do is try to be prepared for when it happens. So I spend all of this time making sure I'm prepared and keeping my eyes and ears open for the opportunity. Making the doc felt like a fusion of that. I knew how to make movies. I made things that were pretty decent at that point. But I was like it felt like I was ready to do this, and it felt like it just coalesced perfectly, the timing of everything, which all was very, very lucky. You have to get something that people don't understand about all movies is so much of it is always luck. And the people who make tons of great movies are just the people who are the luckiest. There's a ton of it that's skill also. It's like a great poker player.
Yeah.
It's like this guy wins most of the time, but he can't win without a little bit of luck every time.
Right.
And life is like that. So the most you can do is make sure to be prepared. And that's what I try to do. I just try to get better every day. Meet as many people as I can, be an authentic person, try to be a good person, and keep those eyes and ears open for the opportunity.
That's really the best advice, because you're like, someone's going to be like, hey, Josh, are you ready? It's kind of like the Eminem thing in a way. It's like, are you ready? And we're about to go. Like if someone says, hey, like you want to come do an hour? Like you work hard and you're ready. Or like you want this opportunity to go on the road? Like you work hard and you're ready.
I'll end with a joke, because this is like a new joke.
Well, I have two more things.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell the joke now then.
Talk about timing.
I had a joke where like during the pandemic, I really like realized what I thought were my dreams are not my dreams.
Yes.
Like, I used to think one of my dreams was to be on The Tonight Show. But what I've realized is my dream isn't to be on The Tonight Show. My dream is to have just been on The Tonight Show, done an incredible job, and have everyone telling me how wonderful I am.
Yeah.
Being on The Tonight Show, that sounds like a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, you want the moment after.
You want the moment after. Everything that you think is your dream is not your dream. Your dream is the moment after. I thought I wanted to make movies. No, I wanted to have finished movies. Making movies is a goddamn pain in the ass.
Right, like you want the moment accepting the award for the movie.
I want the moment where the movie's out, everyone's watching it and telling me how surprised they were that I actually made something really good.
Maybe it's like we all just want to reflect on having done the hard work.
Yeah, it's like
and being proud of our discography.
It's the end of leads to another joke. It's the end of running a marathon. You're in pain when you're running the marathon, but afterwards you feel great that you did it.
Or post-workout bliss.
Post-workout bliss. I've been working out every day for 2 years now, and I don't hate it any less than I did the first day.
Yeah.
I just put myself through it every time because the feeling after is great.
Totally.
Reminds me of another thing that I say nowadays, which is someone said to me, I like lost a comedy competition that I felt I deserved to win. And
you did or they did?
I felt, the person who said this to me also felt I deserved to win.
Right.
And they go, don't worry, Josh, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I said to them, most people lose the marathon too. The same number of people win the marathon that win the sprint. It's actually just a lot more people running in the marathon and a lot more people losing over a much longer period of time.
It's kind of like don't lose the battle, win the war or whatever. Or you can lose the battle, just keep.
I believe in that. I making a movie is like literally asking myself, can I lose this battle and not suffer the integrity of what I'm doing? And I will let myself lose every battle I don't want to lose as long as I win the war.
Do you have extra time? Because I have a few more things I want to ask you. So I want to do the inverse of that one, which is, so you said you've given a lot of people advice. You're very good at giving you advice. You give yourself advice. Give me advice. Give
you advice, Latif. Yeah. Interesting. One thing I'll say, I think you would be an incredible manager also. I think.
Thank you.
I almost say that, like, take this as you will. Like, this is just sincere honesty. I think, like, if my picture of what the future of Latif is, it's more of like did you watch that TV show Vinyl?
Jerry Maguire.
Vinyl?
No, I didn't. I couldn't get through it. It was horrendous.
Oh, I liked it. But you watched the first episode at least.
Yeah. I think I come from music business, so like every time I see something music, I get cringy.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
well,
I can't.
Ironic, because like I was gonna say, like, I can see you being the Bobby Cannavale of stand up.
Okay.
Like
what does he do in the?
He's like the tastemate. He's like the guy who is like finding all the comics, knowing who's great, like understanding the industry. I feel like you've got like a real like grasp on it. As far as being a comedian, write more. I want to I feel like I'm seeing when I see you, I'm seeing you doing a ton of the stuff I saw you doing before the pandemic. Take more risks.
Yeah.
Take more risks. Get outside of your box a little bit more. Like, just accept I would say like, you know what the next thing I would do if I were you is I would spend a month going to mics with no material and just fucking talking and take in the fucking pain of just standing up there talking and feeling you're suffering, and see when the moments come that like you find an actual laugh in that and get like really comfortable with it, and I think that would take you to another level as a comic.
No, I appreciate that, and I think I struggle with that thing we talked about earlier, which is like it's a showcase town, and like sometimes I get the pressure where it's like, all right, this is one where I need to do well at. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, you know, when you want to do well, you're leaning on a bit of the old stuff, you know?
Oh, sure. And you know what? I only see you occasionally.
Yeah.
But like, that's just, that would just be my thought.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good advice. And it's something that,
and it's funny, you know, the last time I saw you, I'm pretty sure I said to you that I really liked the new joke I hadn't heard before. You did like one new bit. It was about like TikTok. You were like comparing TikTok to cryptocurrency or something.
Yes. Yeah.
I liked that joke.
Yeah.
See, I even remember.
Hey,
like how long ago was that? That joke stuck in my head. That means something.
A good manager should. Yeah.
I watch so much comedy for a joke to stick in my head means something.
No, thank you. I mean, I appreciate that, and I think that's like, first of all, that's good advice for anyone. I think to write more. And it's something I've been focusing on. It's like I have my writing schedule, and you know, and I struggle with other, let's say, comedians who have broken. They're not quite the A level, but they're like A minus. They're like hot, and they're, you know, I get advice from them too, where it's like, you know, you should always be doing well until you get the stuff, and then you're like, and so I try to balance that, and then I look at guys like doing the other way, which I'm like, oh, they always have new stuff, so I'm like, I get pulled between the two things a lot.
Well, the first time I did the main room in the Improv, I'll never forget this. This was like a very pivotal moment. I'll tell you two great stories of like stand-up epiphanies for me.
Yeah.
First time I was in the main room, it's like Annie Lederman, Jada Catapretta, Jamie Lee, Josh Adam Myers, and like me.
Yeah.
And like I'm like way out of my league, at least notoriety wise.
Yeah.
And I'm standing there on the side of the stage, like waiting to go up, like with my tightest 5 minutes I fucking have, like ready to just tell these jokes. And one by one, they're all bombing.
Yeah.
But they're bombing in the way I bomb at Fourth Wall.
Right.
And I go up and I have a better set than all of them laugh-wise with my best 5 minutes that I have.
Yeah.
And I walked off stage and I realized this was Fourth Wall to them. This is my most important show, and this is Fourth Wall to them. It's kind of like when I was emailing Judd for the first time about doing the doc. I was like, this is the most important email of my life and the least important email he's ever received.
Right. It's going to his assistant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like...
the least important email is the assistant's reading.
The most least important email, the assistant's reading. And I have this realization. It's like, I got to find the way to be getting on to like these types of stages enough that it feels like I feel when I walk up on Fourth Wall.
Now I would say that the advice I got, which was how you get for that to be your fourth wall, is by doing what you did, which is do your best stuff, because that's how you get bumped up. It's kind of like you get bumped up and then you get a new level of tenure.
Well, I'm always...
where you're allowed to do that.
I'm always trying to do well on shows. Interestingly, last night I had one of my worst sets in a while, but... I walked on stage, I did a riff about the comedian before me. The riff did great. And then I go, I've got him. Let me try all my new stuff now. And the new stuff just didn't quite click yet.
But was the show at a club?
It was at the Comedy Chateau.
Okay. Yeah.
And every other time I've been there, I've had some of the best sets of my life.
I just had one of the best sets of my life there too.
The room is hot. The room was hot when I walked up, and I was just like, you know what?
And then Kevin Hart walked in after me. I was like, what the hell is happening?
I was like, let's see how this stuff I haven't broken out yet on a show does. And it just...
And you know what's funny? I did more new stuff. Like I did almost all new stuff.
Well, you want maybe my best advice for doing well on stage? My best advice, whenever somebody asks me, should I do my new stuff or should I do my old stuff? I always say, what are you the most excited about doing right now?
Yeah.
Because more than anything, more than how funny you are, more than how well written your material is, you're going to do better the more fun you look like you're having.
Yeah.
Because the audience is going to feed off your energy more than anything. And if they see you having a good time, they're going to have a good time too.
Yeah, you can't be bored with it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I see people tell maybe one joke in their whole set that like the audience loves because they're having a blast up there and the audience feels that positive energy.
Yeah. I had a very, let's say, important show where certain people were going to watch. And I was like, oh, fuck. And so I was like, it's going to be 10 minutes. I like ran it for like 2 weeks. I was like, I had it
and then
cold.
You were just so done with it.
I was so done with it.
Yeah. Well, you know what another thing I do, I'll go to mics before shows sometimes. I never do the set I'm going to do on the show at the mic.
Yeah.
Maybe if I have like a newer joke that I'm trying to put into the set that I haven't practiced enough, I'll stick that in there. But I almost never do the set I'm going to do before I do it on stage. Because I know I'm going to do it my best the first time that day.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I take the I don't really know. For me, it's both ways. Sometimes I do it. I'll go to a mic before a show just to get like, the rust off, and then I'll feel better. And sometimes I won't, and sometimes I do, and it makes it worse. I don't know. I don't really know what it is for me. Well, both ways have worked and not worked.
A thing I didn't follow last night was it like a thing I didn't follow last night that is another rule for me with breaking out new material or doing anything. Is I like to go to the mics, and once I have the bit down, I just repeat it over and over again at a ton of mics because I need to get it to the point where I don't have to think about it at all.
Right,
so that
you're memorizing it.
Memorizing it, but like I watched the making of Taxi Driver.
I just watched that yesterday.
So you remember the part?
What the hell?
Some of the best advice I've ever gotten about stand-up is in the making of Taxi Driver, where Jodie Foster's talking about how Robert De Niro took her to breakfast every morning and just ran the lines with her. And that's all he did. And she was like, I'm getting annoyed. She's like, I know the lines. He goes, you don't know them well enough yet.
This was meant to be.
And then she kept running them, and she goes, it got to the point where I knew him so well that we'd start improvising on it.
Right.
And like now I just knew the scene, I understood the beats, I understood everything, so I was able to be present and like be the character while I'm doing it.
Well, it's like acting. It's like, I think that's one of the things. If I had to do what I asked you to do to me, give myself advice, it would be fucking rehearse the stuff. Know even the new stuff. Know what you're trying to do so you have the ability to riff and you're not totally trying to like improvise on the spot.
Well, the thing is, if you know it so well, you don't have to think about it. Your mouth can be doing it and you're being present with it. You start to be able to tell what's going to work, what's not. You can live edit. You can have you can notice something.
There's two people on stage at the same time.
Create a riff in your head while you're telling a joke.
Yeah, exactly.
So that you have a brand new joke that sounds pre-written, ready to go that you just thought of.
Yeah.
And then last night I was partially searching for the words.
Because are you notebooking? Do you have a notebook there?
I do notes in my phone.
But do you have it open?
No, I knew the bits well enough to do them, but I was still like kind of looking for. I didn't have the presence.
In general, are you the guy who has a pad?
No, almost never.
Right. That's what I thought, because I've never seen you up there. I've been like checking something. So are you rehearsing it to the point? Like you have a new joke, brand new joke about headphones. You're about to do it. Do you know more than the premise and maybe a punch?
I'll write different each time, but I'll oftentimes at the mic write a set list for myself just to write it down.
Yeah.
And then I put it in my pocket and I just try to do what I wrote.
Right.
But like the act of writing it gives me
enough
a touch of like the memorization.
Right.
I'd like to ask you a question.
Yes, go.
Your advice for me.
This has turned into a new podcast.
Well, yeah,
I like it.
I shouldn't be. I don't want to be up here just like pontificating that I don't know anything about stand-up. I'm so great.
No.
Like that.
I think that's what's great about all the arts is that like you can be like, this is how it is, and then you can be like, well, I do it the exact opposite, and that still works.
And I'll take your advice in any regard. It doesn't have to even be about my stand-up specifically. It can be about how I operate. Like just business advice and any aspect of it.
Advice. What's interesting, because I feel like there's two Joshes.
Mm-hmm.
So like if I had to give you advice, I would be giving you advice based on the guy who's not as confident as what I see now and not as outgoing. So I would be like, hey, you could probably use some more confidence and be a bit more outgoing.
Oh, out in public?
In public and on stage.
On stage, I often get told that like I seem extremely confident on stage, but interesting.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then, I mean, your writing is super tight. It's always been great. If I was like a manager to be like, okay, well, I like Josh. I'm interested in Josh. What do I want? What would I do with Josh? Mm-hmm. And now that I know more about you, like if you're a filmmaker, I really see some sort of like episodic or show or something with you in it. I think you could create like your own vehicle for yourself around some of these things, because you're very funny and you're very like personable and you're very likable. Likable is hard to get, as we know. Like what you said, when people walk on stage, like I know if they're going to do well. Well, it's also like you can tell who's going to be likable. Yeah. You're like, sometimes people walk, you're like, I don't like that guy.
You just that is exactly what it is. They walk on stage and it's like my just seeing them turns me off.
Right. And look, there's a certain,
but people often think like that's referring to their appearance or anything. It's weird. It's weird how it's energy.
It can be appearance. Like you can wear something that's
part of your energy.
Yeah, but your choice of clothing can be distracting.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
You know? So
I've been trying to figure out more about my look recently. It's something
I have
really
too. Like, look, I wear the same thing all the time. I think you and I kind of dress similar for a while.
Well, I wear the fake Yankees hat.
But a
lot of people associate this with me, the fake Yankees hat.
Yeah, they do. I have the same one, but I think it's not the fake one. But
the fake one's what makes it unique, just the subtle difference.
I thought it was just like the old school, like the first.
I thought it was too, and then I discovered it's actually for the Brooklyn Eagles, which was a segregated league.
All right, so you're representing minorities. That's great.
Yeah.
But
culturally appropriating.
That's more like it, exactly. There were a few times when I think I've been at a show where I've noticed, I don't know if you've noticed, where like you and I have been dressed exact same, like with the gray hoodie.
Well, when I saw your gray hoodie, I was like, oh, I want to get that. I asked you where you got it from. I was like, I wonder if Latif will be upset if I suddenly have the same gray hoodie.
Did I ask you?
No, I asked you.
You asked, oh yeah, it was... Yeah, so anyway.
Because I've been looking for a nice fitting one. Like that one looked like I hate the one I have right now because it's overly large on me.
Yeah, it's hard to come up with like a look. Everything we do on stage is part of it. So like even if you're not thinking about a look, that's a look.
Yeah, and
it's really hard to like think about what. Like changing your look, it's almost so goes against like being a comedian is.
Another undiscovered genius that I'll give you, someone I'm planning to book, Jackson Banks.
Okay.
Do you know Jackson?
No.
Unbelievably funny. The last couple times I've seen him, it's like he's murdered to the point where I feel bad. And he has a very distinct look and a very distinct persona, and like you get it the second he walks on stage. And it's weird. He's a little bit weird as part of his thing.
Yeah.
He is so good at it.
Right?
I've made a joke recently where I was like, I'll email your booker, but I hold you responsible.
Right.
But again, I have a character, like one of my characters is just like guy who...
I saw your email. I could tell you didn't buy it.
What?
That I wasn't the booker.
What did I say?
I just remember reading it. I was like, oh okay.
I think I believe that you weren't the booker. Right. I just said I hold you responsible.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I could read through the lines.
I've bought email addresses that sound like fake email addresses for bookers, so I can tell people to email that and they'll think I'm lying.
Like the booker at joshsbooker.com?
No, I have comedybooker@gmail.com.
That's funny.
I own comedy show booker@gmail.com. Yeah, message comedybooker@gmail.com.
That's honestly the best way to... That might be the funniest thing I've ever heard, because it's like you don't believe it, but you still want to send the email.
Yeah, so I love the idea of them sitting in their room confronting themselves, like, do I email comedyshowbooker@gmail.com or am I going to look like an idiot? And then if they email it, I email them back. But I also tell them it's my booker. So if anyone listens that gets this far in the podcast, you'll now know my secret.
But is that really how it works to get on your show?
I've already got everyone listed, but I'll watch your tape.
Yeah, you'll watch it. I have mixed feelings about watching a tape.
Watching a tape is almost never going to do it for me.
Well, I just I don't want to be in a. Already, I have a booker, so this is like passe. But when I never wanted to be in a position where I'm like, I'm evaluating your tape. Like, I didn't really get into it to do that. Mm-hmm. So I just felt like it wouldn't be fair to do that. It might be more fair to some people to be like, yeah, watch we all know who everyone is pretty much too, and that list is already long. The people I want to book is already so long.
That's my point. I've got all the people I'm gonna book already. Like I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go out, see me out on the scene, crush on a show that I'm on.
Right.
So I see you and decide I gotta have this person on my show.
Right.
Like that happens too. If I see you crush and I love it, like if you get like real laughs out of me from like the side, you're on my list. It's hard to do though. It is. It's like film. It's like when I was a kid, I loved so many movies, but then the more I watched movies and the more I like studied how they're made and the more I learned about it, the more I see through so many of them.
Yeah, totally.
It blows my mind that people still like superhero movies, because I'm just like, have you not gotten tired of watching the same exact movie over and over again? It's just, we got to get
comfort food.
We got to get the thing before it blows up the world. We got to get that guy wants the thing. We want the thing. We got to get the thing.
Yeah.
It's all about getting the thing.
I think we should end on perfect. Josh, this was amazing.
Thank you so much for having me, Latif. I feel like our friendship is deeper now.
Our friendship is deeper. This is one of my favorite episodes. So
I always say I'm the best podcast guest.
Do you always say that?
Yeah. I tell people my goal on stage is to be Josh on a podcast.
Well, you did it, and thank you so much. Tell people where to find you, the name of your movie, where to stream it again.
Mentally Al. You can stream it on pretty much all the platforms that like you can rent movies on. Apple Movies or Xbox or anything. But most people watch it on Amazon Prime rental. It'll be available for rent, I believe, till the end of November, and then I believe it will move somewhere else. I'm not sure what happens next. So maybe rent it quick, so you definitely get to see it before the next phase of it.
Support it. Follow him on Instagram
at the Edelmeister on all platforms.
At the Edelmeister.
TheEdelmeister.